Hello and welcome to the Jose Candelario show. Today I got a very special guest. She was a reporter and anchor, uh, dealt with covered so many stories here in New Haven. We know her very well. She went on to work with now with Alzheimer's.org. She is Kristen Cusato. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. So nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Now you have experience with Alzheimer's. That's why you're there now. Can you share a little bit brief history about you and the facing dementia and how it
Yeah,
affected
I
yourself,
was
your life?
a reporter, anchor, multiple places, including 11 years at Channel 8, some of those years with you. Um, and for 24 years in total of my life. And I was working in San Diego in 2009 on TV. And my mom back here on the East Coast was diagnosed with a type of dementia. So everything stopped. I quit my job, I packed up, and I moved back to the East Coast and fortunately got rehired by Channel 8. And a couple of years into that, I used that platform quite a bit, being able to talk about Alzheimer's, doing stories on Alzheimer's. As I was learning through my mom and the process, I was trying to help other people as well. And then I decided to go work for them. So I've been working for the Alzheimer's Association in communications, kind of using the old skills and really making sure that people know that they don't have to do this alone. There are 80,000 people in Connecticut living with this disease, and that's just the ones we know. A lot of people haven't been diagnosed yet, and about twice as many caregivers. So it affects a lot of people, and I'm sure you run into so many people who it affects.
One thing that I've noticed is that this does affect disproportionately people of color.
That is correct. Yeah. The stats are that people who are African American, Black African Americans, 2 times as likely to develop Alzheimer's, and Latino Hispanics 1.5 times as likely. There is not a ton of knowledge as to why, but some is that some of those populations come forth with additional risk factors like diabetes or blood sugar or blood pressure issues, cardiac issues. So those things are risk factors to Alzheimer's. So that is why it's possible that they are at a greater risk. The other option is, and talking about, we don't have enough people involved in clinical trials, period, but we definitely don't have enough people of color involved in clinical trials so we can find answers to these questions. So that's definitely a push that's happening, is making sure that not everyone in clinical trials is white.
Mm. People around this time of year, this is the holidays. This is a very difficult time when they're spending with loved ones. Can you give some tidbits or some advice in dealing with the holidays and having someone with dementia?
Yeah, I would say that you can still have a successful holiday. You don't have to make it incredibly, incredibly stressful when dementia is at your holiday table. So there are a lot of things you can do to try to change this holiday, this time of gathering, but just kind of adjust it. And the first thing you have to adjust is your own expectations. You can't have it be like it's going to be like every other year, because it's not. It's going to be a little bit different, but it can still be nice. So for example, people with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia tend to do better earlier in the day. So if you have a 9 o'clock dinner after church or something, move it up to a brunch or a breakfast. So that's when you can gather, so they can be sharper, so they can not be as tired. If you usually have something with like 20 people and they all come into the house and it's kind of chaotic, back that up, make it kind of smaller, make it maybe several smaller gatherings, because people with dementia kind of have a problem with so many stimuli, right? So many things happening. So if you've got kids, dogs barking, noise, television, conversations, lights blinking, they might just shut down and just not participate and kind of take it back. So I would say try to raise your early, make it an earlier gathering for people. I would also say try to have a private or separate quiet room for people to be able to go into when they get too stressed out or when it gets too loud. I also like the idea of having people with this disease still be involved in the holiday, right? People who have this disease sometimes don't feel quite as worthy because all these things have been taken away. Like maybe they can't work anymore, can't drive anymore. Some of their independence has been taken away. So giving them worth and validating that is really important. So if you need some help setting the table, have them set the table. And you know what? If there's 4 plates and 2 knives at each setting, who cares? It's okay. It's just having them be worthy and having them be involved. If you're decorating and you don't want someone to worry about all glass baubles, then don't use the glass baubles, or have them direct you and tell you, oh, put that there and put that there and put that there. Have them singing songs. We know a lot about music and we're finding more about music. And I know, Jose, you're a giant music fan, that music from the old days or music, sometimes people can't even do a whole sentence together, but yet they can remember lyrics, right? Like we can remember lyrics from the 80s. That's the way I feel like. Why are we remembering lyrics from the 80s? Well, it's a part of the brain that it gets re-stimulated. And these folks sometimes can burst into song and then have these nice memories of like old holidays. So there are a number of things you can do, but also know that we have an 800 number. So if you have run into stress and there's like anxiety and there's things you don't know what to do, or you don't know how to, someone was just telling me that they called the 800 number in the middle of the night because their loved one wouldn't go to sleep and she was exhausted and the person was exhausted. So the 800 number is 800-272-3900. It's a 24/7 helpline. You can call anytime with any question, and they can give you strategies and tips and tricks. We don't want people to go through this alone. That's the big thing.
Again, so a lot of the focus are on the individual suffering, but one little tidbit that you can give to someone who is a caretaker that's maybe, just now, in the past 2 or 3 months are trying to adjust.
Absolutely. There's so much. We need caretakers and caregivers to take care of themselves, because if they don't, sometimes they implode. And you really need to take care of yourself. You need to get enough rest. You need to do things that are calming and good for you. You need to get out of the situation to breathe for a minute, which means bringing in family members, bringing in care if you can afford it, or getting a respite grant so that you can afford getting in some care. You can't do it all yourself, and you're not expected to. Make sure that you have your village. So friends of the person, or neighbor, or a church, or whatever you lean on, that village is ready to come to you to help you in this. You need to breathe. You need to take care. And if you're a friend of someone who's a caregiver and you don't know what to get them say, or you don't know how to help, don't say, hey, I'm going to pick you something up. What would you like? Just do it. I'm going to get some frozen meals and put them in your freezer. So if you don't feel like cooking one night or you're exhausted, boom, they're in the freezer. I'm going to get you this, and it's going to be easily accessible. Or I'm going to come over and I'm going to clean and do your laundry so you can be with your person, or you can take a nap. There's a lot of things you can do. So just kind of be keen as friends to your friends who are caregivers, and see if there's any way you can just take a little bit of the load off for them.
Community is very important, and especially when you are a caretaker. There are events that you said are already being set up throughout the year. You want to touch on those?
Sure. I mean, we have all sorts of activities all throughout the year, and we're always looking for volunteers, and we're always looking for people to share our story and go and, become community educators and share, like, what are the 10 signs. The education is so important. So we have a lobby day in February where people come up to the Capitol and they just share their story with lawmakers. Don't have to know anything about politics, just share their story, in the hopes that in the future, when they vote, they're like, oh, Mrs. Jones said that thing about the fact that she couldn't get insurance or some Social Security for her husband who's 50. Things that you can put in the back of their mind, and they're, oh, I'm going to vote positively for that. So there's more money for respite or something. So we have a lobby day in February. There's a walk coming up, I think, in Bridgeport in the spring. We have the Longest Day activities, which is a fundraiser in June, or other part. It's celebrated in June, but it can be any time of the year. We have our walks to end Alzheimer's in the fall. There's always stuff going on. And we just want to make sure that people know that they don't have to go through this alone. We have free support groups, free education classes, and we like to go into businesses and be like, hey, half your employees are probably dealing with this. So here's like a 10 signs class that we can do in front of or like at lunchtime, or maybe you should start a support group for just to have like a time where caregivers can meet on their own and be able to breathe and vent. So there's a lot of things going on, and, we're always looking to get people involved in trials. There's just so much. And thank you for this opportunity to share some of it.
What's that phone number again?
The 800 number, it's a 24/7 helpline. Call it anytime, even over the holidays, they are there. It's 800-272-3900.
And the website that they can go to?
Yes, alz.org/CT. It's the Alzheimer's Association, Connecticut chapter.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cusato, for these friendly, kind words. It's desperately needed this time of day, especially with those who are caretakers and those who are, dealing with dementia. So thank you.
Thank you, Jose. It's great to see you.